My name's Sabrina LaFramboise, and today I will be talking to you about what supervision means to me and my supervision needs, along with other parts to supervision that relates to our practice as child and youth care practitioners. As an upcoming child and youth care practitioner, and as a student, right now, a lot of working within the field and doing placement is utilizing supervision and the supervisors at placement. A few guidelines that I have for my supervision and supervisor in the field is mainly the first part is seeking out supervision when they can't answer the questions or information that I need and helping direct me to where I need to go for that. So, at some point within the practice, incidents may occur and you go back to your placement supervisor and they're unable to help you or explain other approaches that you may be able to take. A large part for me is I would hope that my supervisor would be able to help me to go where I need to go within finding resources to answer my questions. As a placement student, more times than less, the questions that I have were questions that my supervisor also had when she was a student. And right now, she has done a large part to my success within this placement as she helps to lead me in the proper direction and different approaches I could take in each incident. Another guideline is being able to have an agenda. So by coming into a meeting with my supervisor, I'm able to open my book and I have a list of questions, concerns, or topics that I would like to go over. So one topic that I went over with my supervisor was being able to work on plan of cares, behavioral management plans, and seeing how it plans out and being able to attend plan of cares. This was able to happen with some of the youth within the home as I had brought up in my first meeting with my supervisor the areas that I would like to develop within and being able to go about having those needs being met and being able to incorporate the learning that I had from other placements and just sharing and being open and communicating with my supervisor and the other staff and being able to use the knowledge that I had before and learning new knowledge to work with the company that I'm with. Another guideline I have is professional boundaries. Professional boundaries is a large key to my success within the placement, as I've had supervisors who were a little too open with me in discussing personal matters with other employees and talking down to other employees in front of me. Although I am a student or at some points I was working, a part of my supervision is being able to have those boundaries and talking to their supervisor about those issues instead of me as particularly the student, as it puts me in an uncomfortable position with these employees when I'm working with them. So the challenges I would have within guidelines with my supervision, especially with professional boundaries, is just having that relationship and being able to be open and talk to them about saying, hey, I am not comfortable with talking about other employees in a negative way while I'm around, or just setting boundaries saying, I get I'm the student and I understand that there's frustrations, but I'm not comfortable with these things being shared while I'm here as a student, as I work with these employees in the afternoons after I'm done working with you in the morning, and just being able to be honest, open, and communicate with them the needs that I need met for my supervision. An article that I had read throughout the semester relates to this, and the article says, remember, it's a relationship. To be honest, consistent, and dependable. That's by Frank Delano in 2001 in an article named If I Could Supervise My Supervisor. I believe this is a strong article, and it helped me relate and figure out the guidelines that I would like to have with my supervisor. Being able to be honest, open, and talk to them with the concerns, questions, and everything that I have, and having them open with me as well. And being able to ask me questions and give me feedback about how I'm doing as the placement student. Self-monitoring supervision needs is also a large important part to supervision and how supervision runs. Some needs that I have when it comes to my supervision and my supervisors is being open with feedback again. A large part to my success is gaining feedback from employees, coworkers, even the youth that I'm working with, and that way I can change my approach, my direction, and the way that I work with the youth. And this helps to be more open, and the success of working with these youth and creating relationships with the other employees, and just having that open and honest conversation and gaining feedback to be able to change possibly what needs to be changed or alter certain behaviors or emotions during placement, so that I have that knowledge when it comes to other placements and other youth that I work with. Another need that I have is willing to teach and being able to reach out to me as my supervisor. I would like for them to be open to teaching me different areas of the field, and whether it's plan of cares, behavioral management plans. I want my supervisor to be able to teach me and show me the ropes or lead me to where someone who is able to can teach me these aspects of the line of work. As a large part of it is also on me being able to reflect on my own and being willing to talk and be open with my supervisor and let them know, like, hey, I want to work on plan of cares this week. I know this youth's plan of care is coming up. Is there any possibility that I will be able to sit in and read over the plan of care and gain more understanding? And that is when I would like the need of mine being met, where my supervisor is able to take me along with her, and if she's the one writing the plan of care, being able to show me and let me maybe mock up a plan of care or just watch and read over the plan of care, so I get a better knowledge about plan of cares or behavioral management plans. And that way, having my supervisor more open to teaching me or giving me the resources I need to, whether it's another full-time staff or someone else who does the plan of cares, to teach me how to do it, and just being able to lead me in directions after I explain the areas that I would like to grow in. Another need I have is just being open to ideas and answering questions, or just listening to my concerns, being able to listen and sit with me and discuss whether I have a concern with the placement or an issue that occurred, and just being able to sit down and talk to them and be open about my questions, my concerns, and leading me, so I'm not constantly thinking about it or bringing it back and it causing whether burnout or compassion fatigue. Just being able to discuss, debrief, and gain an understanding whether it's a different approach needed to be taken in different areas such as that. An article that was presented within my courses in school was an Ernie Hilton journal that said Understanding Supervision. So it says, if we were to have a magic wand, what changes and experiences would occur in supervision? I believe this is strong because everyone has their own needs and everyone has different views on supervision. So if we were to all have a magic wand and be able to change our supervision to our needs, what would that look like? How would you change the supervision that you have or your future supervision so that it works for you and you're able to go and be successful in your supervision? So expectations are another large part to that. So having expectations of your supervisor and being able to lay those down when you sit with your supervisor and say, these are the expectations I have. Are there expectations that you have of me? And kind of negotiating and talking about it and just being open with your supervisor. So one expectation I have is being able to give her feedback. So as a supervisor, I feel although they are your supervisor, you should also be able to give them feedback or discuss with them, hey, this aspect isn't working for me. Is there any way we can go about this in a different aspect? And I feel like that will be like that would help, because that way your supervisor can also help to cater your needs so you have a better learning experience within the field and with that company underneath them as your supervisor. Another expectation I have is being open to leading and giving direction. So, in certain aspects, we may be stuck or feel stuck and need help kind of like motivating ourselves and just working through the issues being presented. And by having a supervisor and having them lead you and go through processes and steps with you, you gain a better understanding, and the next time you'll be able to move forward without as many issues or complications. And that is one expectation I have of my supervisors. Hearing what I would want them to hear what I want to learn. So being able to sit down with me in a meeting and hear out what I want to learn instead of telling me aspects of the practice that I want to learn. I've had that experience in a previous placement where they told me what I needed to learn instead of me being open and able to talk to them about what I wanted to learn. And it had put a standstill within the relationship with my supervisor and gaining knowledge for the practice. So by having my supervisor being willing to listen to my needs and the aspects of the field that I would want to work with, I'm able to develop and gain more knowledge as well by just learning and following and having them lead me to success. And along with that is having positive relationships with your supervisor. For me, I've had supervisors who didn't have as positive of a relationship with me. And it was a two-way thing. We hadn't sat down, we didn't talk much. It was very hard to gain knowledge within the field. Although now with a supervisor and learning more about supervision at school, I'm able to create positive relationships with my supervisors by creating boundaries. So not bringing external issues into work and talking about them during work time or placement time, and being able to focus on the youth and learning more about the field, as well having one-to-one conversations and being open and honest. So by being able to be open, honest with my supervisor, it creates a positive relationship because it's a give and take. We both take something from it and we're both giving feedback and talking about the issues presented. Another large part to that is communication. Having communication and being able to talk to supervisors and explain to them the needs or the expectations that you have for them, they're able to take that, as well as they will tell you expectations and feedback, and you are able to take that and create a relationship and have communication, being able to learn and move forward within the relationship and gaining more knowledge. Professional development is a large part to supervision. The reason this is a large part to supervision is because as upcoming child and youth care practitioners, we all want to learn. We all want to be able to create professional status and move up and gain more information about the field and how we can be better child and youth care practitioners. 3 skills that I bring into placement when I started was relationships and being able to create boundaries. For myself, I believe that boundaries are the stepping stones to creating a positive workplace, positive space, and just being able to help so that we're not creating burnout or compassion fatigue, and you're able to have a disconnect with work from home life. As I've seen in many aspects, people who do not create boundaries have a harder time, and then work becomes more of a chore than just going and being happy with the workplace and being able to go home at the end of the night and see your family and have a different aspect instead of work and home life comparing and intertwining together. Another skill that I came in with is the legal system. Especially this has developed within my recent placement as I have gained more knowledge in the legal aspect, whether it's courts, probation, being able to take the children and youth to these court dates, their parole meetings, and just gaining more understanding on how the legal system works, especially with like family, the ecological systems, all the different systems working together to create a better understanding and being able to help this child move forward within their life and their everyday activities. Another part of this is also the skills that I need to work on. One skill I believe myself, and I've discussed this with my supervisor, is interventions and having life-space interventions. When is the right time to intervene and discuss a topic? When is it more of a challenge if I want to talk to a kid about an issue that's been presented? And just being able to talk to my supervisor and gain an understanding about how life-space interventions work and how I am able to incorporate myself into the life space of these youth, but also help them out at the same time without seeming like I am constantly asking them questions or I want to get to know their personal life, and just being able to kind of talk to them and have interventions and talk about different things that are going on in their life without seeming like I'm hassling them or constantly asking them questions. Just being able to motivate and talk to them in a easier way. Another part to my skill development that I would like to work on is the applied development of youth. So patterns of growth and development, psychotropic meds, and just being able to understand how medications work for youth and their different aspects to how come this helps for certain kids and it doesn't for other kids. And just being able to use my supervisor's knowledge on that and have them teach me, although I am not a worker yet and I'm unable to dispense medication or like do that kind of aspect, being able just to ask questions and let them understand your concerns and have them lead you to resources where you can also learn more knowledge. And another skill that I would like to work on within my supervision is professional development and just diversity. As a female out of a small town, I haven't been very open, and it's harder for me to see different diversity and understand it, as in a small community we don't have much diversity. So by being able to use my supervisor and talk about diversity and the different needs that each kid has and their religions, and just gaining an understanding on how to utilize that within their care and be able to show them that I'm willing and want to learn more about them and their culture and the things that they're into, and just understanding diversity more and the different aspects of diversity. And along with that is sometimes we catch ourselves plateauing and not moving forward within the career and having that experience. So by being able to consistently reevaluate and gain a better understanding, talking to my supervisor and making sure that I'm not plateauing and just staying in a constant kind of line and not being able to better my work as a child and youth practitioner, and just gaining more knowledge and different resources on how to help these youth and go about helping them. And asking for feedback, just constantly making sure that I'm talking to my supervisor, having meetings, having agenda, and explaining my concerns, and having them give me feedback, not only from my supervisor, but the other coworkers who are supervising me while on shift, and just having them let me know, like, hey, I noticed that this isn't working for you. How about we kind of go over some alternatives and you can try those out and see if they work better, and just being able to move forward and gaining more understanding about the field. Being stuck in the field can be hard, especially I find myself stuck in power struggling, and just having the feeling of being stuck is hard, and trying to ensure that you get out of the stuck and you're not plateauing to where you get stuck. So I think by just taking a step back if I'm powering struggling myself, and this is where I get stuck is when I'm power struggling, is stepping back and just taking a look and having someone else come in if needed, or just taking a step back, taking some space and come back to it, and just being able to debrief and understand what happened to how I got stuck, or how the power struggle turned out and how come that happened. And I feel like by doing that, we gain a better understanding of ourselves and how to work with these youth in our care. And lastly, just ask for strategies and find resources. Talk to your supervisor about finding resources. Being able to look at yourself and understanding when you're plateauing or you're getting stuck, and going about finding different resources and gaining new resources and gaining more knowledge on these issues, and just being able to go about it in a different light. Along with that is with supervisors is we have mentors. We can get mentors, people who are willing to talk to us and lead us to success and have meetings with us. Even though we work within the field and we have supervisors, sometimes it's nice to have a mentor and external resource from a different company or a different aspect of the child and youth care practice, if not even a different field that relates to child and youth care. That way we can have these mentors to go to when we're feeling stuck, we're having compassion fatigue or burnout because we're plateauing and we can't seem to go about moving forward within our field. And some characteristics that I would like out of my mentor, especially, would be honest. Just being honest and open with me. Being able to sit down with me in a meeting that we're having, and if I tell them a story about what happened with me and a youth in my care, and then being able to be open and tell me, I don't think that was a good idea, or maybe instead of doing this, we'll try this next time. That way you gain a better understanding and you're able to talk to each other. And just having that open, honest relationship where you can talk about things and have an understanding together. Being willing to sit down is another characteristics I like in my supervisors and my mentors. Being able to sit down with someone face to face, or even on a phone call, and having that one-to-one relationship and connecting and explaining things, talking about things, explaining concerns, and just being open, honest, and talking about it. That is something that I really like in a supervisor and a mentor, because I find myself able to listen and understand better, and just understand that they will be open and honest with me. They're not going to beat around the bush or let me plateau or get stuck. And just being willing to teach me. As a mentor, they may not work in the same field, they may not be your supervisor, but they can also teach you different strategies. I would want them, if I come to them about an issue, I'd want them to be willing to teach me. Maybe if they needed to find external resources, but instead of just pawning me off or pushing me to the side and giving me external resources, try to give me some of their resources or talk to me and just teach me. I want them to be able to sit down with me or role play with me and be able to talk about this. Some questions that I would ask for my mentor, or if I was going about finding a mentor, would be, are they willing to reach out to me if they have new information or they have different conventions to go to? Being able to not only contact me and have me contact them, is just being able to, whether it's an email saying, I learned about this, would you, like, I thought maybe you would like that, or just being willing to talk to me and reach out to me if they find new areas of knowledge that I may be able to use in my practice. And as my mentor, I would hope they would share these with me, or if needed, talk to me about them. Being willing to use an agenda and just having meetings. Although phone calls are nice, sometimes sitting down on a day and having coffee and just talking to a mentor about the week that you've had or the month that you've had, or just certain things, and being able to debrief with them in a different light and have someone who doesn't work in that field or in that home, and being able to see it from a different perspective and give you knowledge and just be able to understand better. Another one is being okay if I use other resources, or if I have another mentor from a different spot, and being willing for me to use that and understanding of that as like having one mentor is great, but being able to talk to other people and having a variety of people there and being able to use those resources, it'll help gain knowledge and help move forward within the field. I feel like those are the key questions I would have with my supervisor, just to make sure they're okay with that and that they're willing to do that for me. Along with having mentors is sometimes we outgrow them. Sometimes we have mentors and they're great, but then after a while we start plateauing and we're on the same level and we've outgrown our mentor. And I feel like plateauing is a large part to that, is when we are sharing information but we're unable to talk about it or find new resources, or we're kind of butting heads and we're not able to come to the same conclusion we used to, or discuss things, or meetings are not happening as regularly. It's not as helpful anymore. And I think just being able to realize that it's not helping anymore and to let the relationship go on a positive note before it gets too overwhelming and we can't use it. Especially if the relationship is at a standstill or we're kind of hostile and it's not working as nicely, we're able to talk about it and be reasonable with each other and let each other know, I don't feel like this is working for me anymore. How are you feeling? And being able to have that conversation and using the open and willingness that you had in the relationship to be able to discuss and understand that this isn't working anymore and you've kind of outgrown your mentor. And the last part is just seeking other resources and no longer using your mentor. If I notice that our meetings have gone from once a week to every 5 months or not as much as they used to, I would get concerned that my mentor is no longer working for me and I'm avoiding having that conversation with them and them not understanding aspects to why it isn't working for me. So I feel like just being able to understand when it's plateauing, the relationship's at a standstill, and being able to have that conversation before you can't have the conversation and it's no longer as good as it used to. But overall, I think having a mentor could really help in many aspects of our child and youth care field. And just being able to talk about it and being open. And along with mentor is understanding self-care and self-monitoring our self-care. As child and youth care practitioners, we sometimes forget about our self-care and we don't talk about our burnout or our compassion fatigue, and we try to ignore it and we kind of let it go until it's too bad and then it's hard to recover from that. So being able to notice our self-care and using our self-care will really help our supervision, and being able to talk to your supervisor, that there comes the open and honest and being able to tell them, I'm feeling a little bit of burnout, or understanding what burnout or compassion fatigue is for yourself and how you can go about working on it and slowly working to not have burnout or compassion fatigue, and being able to look forward to going to work and not seeing it as a hassle. Burnout for me is more of like job stress, so I haven't been using my self-care. I don't want to get up and go to work like I used to anymore, and I feel like I'm just burnt out. I've had very little interaction with my family and my family, friends, and just I've constantly been at work. I feel like I can't get the things that I've agreed to with my supervisor done, so I bring them home and I'm working on them, and my schoolwork's failing. I'm not seeing my friends and family. I just feel like all I do is work, and I feel that's when I get burnt out, and that's what burnout means to me. And then alongside of that is compassion fatigue. So that's when I find myself getting too emotionally involved with a youth or an issue going on within the home, and I feel kind of helpless because it's a secondary traumatic experience. It's a secondary trauma. You're understanding, you're starting to feel how the youth feel. And when that happens, I feel like my home and my work start getting jumbled together and there's no separation. I don't have the boundaries where home is home and work is work, or placement is placement. I have it all jumbled together, and it's hard to separate and not have those feelings. And then I start getting anxious, or my emotions don't line up, and I have a hard time understanding and just motivating myself to do things that I used to love. So, being able to know if one or both of burnout and compassion fatigue are there, and just understanding the red flags for myself. I know for me, it's thinking about the issues at work, at home, and just constantly trying to understand and help and create ideas at home instead of talking to my supervisor and letting them know I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm feeling that I can't get this plan of care done, so I'm working on it at home every night, but now I'm feeling burnt out, and I feel emotionally drained. I I don't want to come to work, and just being able to let them know that these things are happening to me, and I want to be able to correct them. Can you help me to how I can learn different techniques and understand better to how I can complete these tasks and complete work without getting burnt out? Another part is just I would understand because there's no disconnect. So being able to come home to my family, my friends, and sit down and have a meal and not think about work or think about the external forces that are pulling together. I'm not sitting at dinner thinking about a youth or their court date coming up or their probation meeting tomorrow and how it will go this week. And just being able to have a night to myself and not worry about the things at work, not worry about the plan of care, and just be able to sit down and type out an assignment or work on an assignment or even just watch a movie with my roommates on the weekend. And another thing is, I just don't want to do the things that I used to love. I used to play hockey or play sports, and if I notice that I'm no longer going to the outdoor rink to play hockey with my friends on a Thursday, and I just don't feel like watching movies with my friends or just cooking a meal with all my roommates, if I notice that these things are slowly deteriorating and I'm just forcing myself to my room, I'm keeping to myself, I don't do much, I understand that it's starting to do that. And sometimes it's the compassion fatigue, just feeling what the youth are feeling sad, or understanding that my family isn't at school with me and their family isn't with them, and putting those together and having the same kind of thoughts and feelings, although I have access to my family and I can call them, I can talk to them when the youth can't, and just starting to take on the feelings that the youth have and not being able to do a separation of that. So I feel like by talking to my supervisor and letting them know, I can talk to them about I need a self-care day. I need to take a day to myself and just spend it with my friends, or can I take the weekend off and being able to go home for the weekend to see my family and just have a disconnect. Being able to separate work from home life, although not always possible, it also helps to create a better relationship with me, my family, and the youth that I work with, being able to have separation and being able to separate. And I find burnout can also happen with job stress, with just overwhelming amounts of shifts. So, someone who's picking up extra hours or having to do placement Tuesday through Sunday to gain enough hours, and then having Monday off but having to do schoolwork, and just burning out because there's no time for self-care, there's no time to sit alone. And so just maybe working something out with your supervisor and talking to them and saying, is there any possibility that I can come in early or stay an hour later every night to gain the 5 hours that I would, or 4 hours that I would gain on the weekend, and just accumulate that through the week so that I can have the weekend off to do self-care so I'm not feeling as burnt out and I can get my schoolwork done. As school, as well as placement is a priority, school is also a priority in getting assignments done on time. I feel like with all of this, being able to have that magic wand that they talk about within one of the articles, and just being able to talk to your supervisor, let them know how you feel and how you would like supervision, and being able to openly talk about it can help to create a positive work environment, a positive placement, as well as avoiding burnout or compassion fatigue with the amount of school and work life, and just being able to use supervision to your advantage, because in the end, without supervision, none of us would be able to become the child and youth practitioners that we would like to be. And just being able to use them as a resource and a reference. Thank you for listening.